problem with the rear seatbelt. When the seatbelt would retract all the way and be against the seat like this, there's nothing you could do to pull it outwards. It would actually lock so hard that the seat wouldn't tilt or anything. You couldn't do anything. So what I did was I unbolted the bottom bolt so it would retract all the way, and then I was able to pull it out and bolt it back up. Well, that's the first time it happened. The second time it happened, I couldn't get it to retract, to be able to release itself. I went to unbolt the bolt and the bolt snapped off. And the bolt snapped off to try and release it, figuring, well, I have to fix it now. Push all the way back, release the seat. And then grab this cushion here, pull forward, releases the upper clip here, and lift it straight out. So I'm going to set that back there. Now, what that does, gives me some room to work to get to this. So I can punch it to get a center point, and I can get a drill in here to drill straight down. I say it gives me room. It doesn't give me room to swing.
Right. I'm trying. Like it. I can have okay.
Oh, the metal filings from drilling out that bolt. Now the bolt's out, I can get this thing torn apart. Right here, push it from the back side. There's a push button, push pin, push button. And there's one over here. Start pushing it from the back side. Pull it out. Once you get that, there's over here and here, there are two just pull this whole thing forward. Okay, I pulled the rear deck lid out, and somebody had jammed this deck lid cover, what do you want to call it, rear deck lid, in so hard it ripped this tab off, snapped this off, and over there it took and folded that down like this. That tab seems to be okay. I used epoxy to repair this one and that one, and I'm going to show you the epoxy repair on this one. I don't have much left in here, but I have some epoxy laying around. It's like a 5-minute epoxy. It's cream, doesn't matter the color. I accidentally bought cream one day and haven't really used it on too much stuff that you can see. Save caps, especially the kind like this. You never know when you need to use just some epoxy. So I'll just squeeze in. Hopefully I have enough to get this job done. Myself a little stir stick. And got a little bit of epoxy. Doesn't need a whole lot. Just gonna mix it up real good. Okay, you can see this. You can see the mount only has this little spot of whatever kind of glue the factory used. I'm gonna cover as much as I can with the epoxy, just because it'll hold better. So, okay, I'm gonna take basically every bit of epoxy that just mixed up in here, and I'm just gonna smear it. Cover this whole tab. So when I put it back in the car, it'll stick. Okay. It should pretty much, I'm going by this and by this, it should just pretty much face straight forward. I'm gonna push it in place. I don't think I'll need, you can see the epoxy squishing out. Just put something on it to just hold it. It's a 5-minute epoxy. I'll come back in 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever. Make sure it's completely solid and be able to put this back in. You can see on each side, right here and right there, there's little squeeze tabs. You squeeze them and then you can remove that. There's a bolt in the back, 15mm deep socket. You don't want it. Problem when they're using a socket, you can see here as I take the nut off, it wedges up against into this airbag panel. So tighten it up a little bit so I can get it out. Using the socket with my fingers to get the nut free. see the nut and the stud. Now here you see this little cover here. I'll pull that cover so you can slip the seatbelt through the opening. There we go, whole seatbelt's out. Now when you put this in, you want to put it in upside down because everything's upside down here. The pad's upside down, and that way you don't have to flip it when you put it back in, because you got to put this little trim piece back on. Trim piece back on. You can see here, clip the trim piece into the trim pieces back on. Now you want to put your seatbelt retractor. And put this back up in. When you put it in, you can see the alignment tit there in the front. Make sure that that goes down. Use your fingers. Get started. Wind it most of the way down. It's tight. Snap a little plug back in. This foam block here was knocked off of it, and I used some black Permatex to glue it back onto it. Okay, installation is just pretty much the reverse. You can see your foam block here. Really what that foam block does is keeps the panel from going down and laying on this light, or the panel being crushed downwards. So just make sure you don't knock that foam block off when you're putting it back in. Okay, now those rear hooks, you can kind of guide them back while you lift the panel up. You want to get everything clear going in. Make sure your hooks are hooked in the back and then you can reach towards the front where the front pieces snap in. Just make sure they go in the holes. You can feel the hole up in there. When you get one side, you snap it in. The same thing on this side. Feel for the holes. Get it snapped in. Then you have this. This is your little push pin. You got the same one on the other side. All right. The rear panel's back in. Hook hooks into here. See the hook here? Hooks into here. That's it. That's it. Well, if you're like me and you wanted to know how to get the seatbelt out of the back of the Volvo S40 for one reason or another, in my case, a broken bolt and a malfunctioning belt that was locking up, I hope this video helped you out. Give me a like, share, and subscribe, because you never know what I'm going to do next.